On the YouTube, on the way, any second. Muting that. All right. So, Shabbat Shalom again. It is so good to be
Shabbat
here with
Shalom.
all of you. So let's just take a moment and get ourselves into a Shabbat mindset. So if you want to take a deep breath and let out any tension in your body as you exhale. Consciously put aside whatever you're carrying around from the week. That'll still be there on Sunday. And if it isn't, well, that's probably okay too. All right. So I'm going to just go ahead and mute everybody just to not have background sound. And we are going to begin in our prayer book, which I am going to share. And here we go. If you have a prayer book, it's page 127. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. And this week, it is my pleasure to invite Myra Tattenbaum to unmute herself and to do the blessing over the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushav v'tzivonu v'yom l'chad niknei shal Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
We turn now to the Kiddush, and it's my pleasure to invite Alan Zarrow to unmute and read the Kiddush in English.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the Holy Shabbat our heritage as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your Holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifiest Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'havo v'ratzon hinchilanu Zikaron l'maseh v'reishit Ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'e kodesh Zeicher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'chata V'yotanu kidashta B'kol ha'amim Shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'beratzon hinachaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
We continue with Lecha Dodi and imagine the Shabbat as a bride bringing joy and beauty to our day. If you have a prayer book, it's on page 138.
Lecha dodi likra kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zacho b'dibor echad השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, לראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקרא כלה פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי ברך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
If you have a prayer book, the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, is on page 146. I invite you, if you're able, to rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
I invite you to read with me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי חיים חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה.
We continue with the Shema. If you have a prayer book, page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta, Le'olam va'ed.
Let's be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקישרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
I invite you to read with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך בנדר בכל צי, מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורתי לוט אוסף אלה, נורתי לוט אוסף אלה, מלכותך רנו לפניך, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים, זלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, יא ביי bim bim bam, יא ביי bim bam, יא ביי bim bim bam, יא ביי bim bam, ay יא ביי bim bam, la יא ביי bim bam.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב ויהלום יד חזק ממני. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We have come to the Amidah, the Tefillah. I invite you to rise if you're able.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagdol Hagibor, Hanura, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Tekonei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר, ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, אומץ אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Let's be seated. I invite you to read with me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. We have come to our prayer of gratitude, and I would like to invite you, if you choose, to put in the text something that you're grateful for this week, something that you're grateful for this evening. Put it in the chat, or if you prefer to unmute and just tell it to us out loud, you could do that as well. So, Robert Rothman says, weather, in all caps. He really means it. Ike, you got your first shot this week. Good job. We're so grateful for that. Charlotte says she felt safe to get a haircut for the first time in 5 months. And look how great Charlotte's hair looks. Very lovely, Charlotte. I got my hair done last weekend, but nobody noticed because I've decided to leave this little patch of white in the front. It makes me look like a superhero. So at least that's what my husband says. Lori Silverman is grateful that she saw her grandchildren last weekend. Jen Tattenbaum says that Devin is grateful that he is playing on his mom's iPad after he broke his own iPad. I bet he is grateful for that. Linda Kushner says that she's grateful because her knee surgeon was a mensch today and answered all her concerns about her upcoming surgery. So we're grateful for that. Karen Kramer says she's grateful that her partner and herself got their second vaccines, and she is very grateful to Joni Holland Schaefer for getting an appointment for a good friend of hers. If anybody is having trouble getting appointments, Joni Holland Schaefer, who is one of our congregants, is one of those vaccine angels who can find appointments for people. And also Brooke Middleton, another congregant, has offered to help with that as well. So if you need help finding vaccine appointments, we have people who are doing that and can help you. So let me know and I'll put you in contact with them. Or if you have a temple directory, you can just look them up and give them a call. Let's see. I am grateful that on Tuesday I got my second shot. So I'm just waiting the 2 weeks now, and then I'll behave exactly the way I've been behaving this whole time. but I will have been vaccinated. Linda Horowitz is grateful for an uneventful week. Alan Zarrow is grateful that at New Montefiore Cemetery, the groundskeepers cleaned off the old TB Temple Beth Emeth plaque in the Temple Beth Emeth section of New Montefiore. And if you want to see pictures, Alan has them, and I'm sure he would be happy to share, but not now. Gail and Bob had it might just be Gail, had her first modern Hebrew Ulpan class today and went swimming at the Y with Bob. So that's awesome. Linda Horowitz says Joni is a miracle worker. So we're going to say we are grateful for Joni. She got them their appointments. And Monica is grateful and pleased, as am I, that they are putting plans in place to vaccinate people who are homebound. I did see that as well. Mickey, do you have something to share?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for all those who attended the Yitzchak service for Sherry on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are grateful for Sherry's life and for her involvement with Temple.
It was a very lovely service.
Rabbi,
Yes?
I am very glad that my family is well and recovered from getting the shots. They had some reactions, and they're
Yes.
doing well.
So we are grateful for people who have gotten shots and have gotten through their reactions to the shots as well.
Rabbi, who are
Yes.
the two people who were searching for vaccine sites? Brooke and who else?
Brooke Middleton and Joni Holland Schaefer. Joni
Joni
Schaefer.
Schaefer. Okay, thank you.
Yes, also known as Esther in the Purim Spiel. Anybody else have something that you're feeling grateful for today?
Rabbi,
Yes?
I'm grateful that my grandfather is recovering from back surgery.
Modim anachnu lach. We're grateful too. Thank you, Nathan. Anybody else? Okay. Let me just share the prayer book again. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. We continue with our prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atom melech lechol hashalom. Ki atom melech Lechol Shalom, Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. And now we continue quietly. If you have a prayer book, there are words on pages 180 and 181. If you can see the screen, there are words on the screen. And of course, we can always use the words in our own hearts. We continue quietly.
Be the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, be acceptable to you. Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen.
We turn our thoughts now to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If there are people whose health you are praying for, whose names you did not send into the office, please add those in the chat. And I'll also give you a chance if you prefer to say the names aloud. We hold in our thoughts and in our hearts for healing this evening Jesse Sakharov, Ira Weiss, Elaine Drucker, Allison Plummer, Patty Ann Cubero, Ellen Belofsky, Meg Goldate, Mady Rosenbaum, Rabbi Dara Lerner, Susan Sisler, Alan Fremer, Susan Bilecki, Dana Haitkin Nelson, Arlene Rosenthal, Michael Luck, Barbara Weiner, Andy Glantzman, Amy Juskowitz Soonseller, Ira and Deanna Roth, Roz Borenstein, Irv Weiner, Eddie DeAngelis, Ira Goldman, Vicki Lightnaker, Sarah Brooks Kamen, Nettie Trommer, Mia Gannon, Richie Stein, Jeff Abel, Harold Gleiberman, Suzanne Leknos, Florence Schoen, Jules Feldman, Esther Batlusi, Roz Zuckerman, Paul Kastick, Les Schenker, Katie Schenker, Dr. Jack Egnatinsky, Roberta Hayrath, Marilyn Birnbaum, Robin and Neil Parr, Roz Solomon, Joan Lifshitz, Stacy, David and Wilma Mauser, Hannah Paines, Christina Leknos, Patricia Matthews, Ellen Hoyt, Brian Wilco, Margot Zittin, Stuart Armstrong, Della Cohen, Maxine Breland, Iris Merlis, Regina Stein, Linda Feller, Monica Adius, Steph Adius, Michelle Nusumovisi, Kimberly Davy and Braden Finnegan, Claire Cyber, Ariana Winower Stein, Linda Kushner Silverman, Kay Bonani, Peter Brandenberger, Dale Richards, Sal Comiso, Lauren and Ian, Huma Saber, Noah Isa, the AAIP community, Monique Renaud, Ronaldo Laviolette, Jackson and Tara Kushner, Shelley Samet, David Gershon, Stanley Tenen, Ronnie Kaplowitz, Camille McGinnis, Della Cohen, Patricia Hunter Cahill, Eleanor Cohen, Marlene Unterberger, Freya Kashmir, Delphine Wolf, Jeannie Greenberg, Rita and Perry Kravitz, Linda Lebin, Carol Davis, Elliot Woofsey, Tony Woofsey, both are recovering from COVID, Joan Lifshitz, Suzanne Mishler Hernandez. Does anyone else have names they would like to add by unmuting? Monica?
Yes, Erwin and Patty Cohen.
Thank you.
Amy Bona.
Also Joan Coakley, Pat Martin, Amy Bona Cohen, Bobby and Dan, and Sam Sarfati. Anybody else?
Shoshana Bela Devora.
Thank you. Mickey?
Elliot Chuka, Sandra and Jay Pastor, Thea and Steve Glasser, Aline and Steve Abramowitz, Phyllis Schwartz, and Terry O'Leary.
Toby Geringer Giffer.
Thank you. I'd also like to add Rivka Bat Chaya v'Yisrael. Anybody? Emma Rose?
I don't know if you said this in the list that I wrote down, but Dale Richards.
Mm-hmm. And Leah says she meant AAP. Is that an L? I'm not sure. Or AAPI, the AAPI community. Anybody else? Ruth.
Yeah, there's Yasera, Richard Zagam, Mark, Paul, and Connie Steiner, Monica Byer, Patty and Erwin Cohen, Mimi Karp, Marion Mandel.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Okay.
I'd like to add Florence Greenberg.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? We also include all of those who are suffering from COVID-19, all of those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, and those who have been hurt in recent disasters, both natural and human created, including this week's shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. Yoni?
Misheberach avotinu mikor habracha le'emotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha le'emotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to invite you to picture a Jew. Picture someone Jewish, just whatever comes to mind. And I'm wondering if the image that immediately came into your head was of a Hasidic man, a white person with white skin and a big beard and payas, the side curls, and a black hat. So flip it around just a little bit. When you see a person, what makes you think that they might be Jewish? What makes a person look Jewish? Maybe curly hair. Maybe a prominent nose. We get mad when the non-Jews say it, but we can say it, right? Skin that's maybe just a little bit swarthy, a little bit Mediterranean looking. Have you ever been told that you don't look Jewish? I have. Shinshanim are Israeli students who do a gap year between high school and the army, volunteering in Jewish communities outside of Israel. A few years ago, there was a Shinshin in Brooklyn named Yonatan. His parents were immigrants to Israel from Morocco and Yemen. He has black hair and brown skin. I asked him once about his experience of racism in the United States. Did he encounter racism? And he said the only racism he experienced here was in synagogues, where people didn't believe he was Jewish. This week, I read a piece written by a Jewish woman whose mother is a Korean Jewish American. Her father is a white Jewish American. This woman was born Jewish, but because she is also Korean, people always assume that she's not Jewish or that she converted to Judaism. And she also has to face anti-Asian racism. This week, as I mentioned during the Misha Berach, brought us news of another violent and horrifying attack in our country. A white man, 21 years old, shot and murdered 6 Asian women and 2 men. It happened in Georgia, and while the man said that his massacre was not racially motivated, his Facebook page included at least one slur blaming China for coronavirus. Certainly, he targeted places where Asian American women made up most of the employees. On some level, sex and race were factors, even if this crime does not meet the legal definition of a hate crime, which remains to be seen. Asian Americans have been hit hard by this attack. Over the past year, in fact, there has been a surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans, most likely fueled by rhetoric that COVID-19 was inflicted on the US by China. And it has impacted all kinds of Asian Americans because white Americans generally can't distinguish between them. And I am one of those. Racism against Asian Americans is often overlooked in our society as a whole, but it is certainly part of the experience of Asian Americans throughout our history and still today. There are 3 reasons that I believe we should pay attention to this massacre of Asian American women in Georgia. First, as Americans and as Jews or fellow travelers with Jews, we should value the life of every person. That maybe goes without saying, but I decided to say it anyway. The founders of this nation wrote that all men are created equal. And although we know that they didn't actually mean all, we can mean all. And in fact, we can also mean all people, regardless of gender. In Jewish tradition, we read, anyone who kills a person has destroyed an entire world. These murders destroyed 8 worlds, and that should be intolerable to us. Second, as Jews or fellow travelers with Jews, we know what it feels like to be targeted. If we haven't been personally targeted by hate, we know about it historically or have been rocked by it when it has happened to other Jews. When I heard about this crime in Georgia, I know that I thought about the Tree of Life Synagogue massacre in Pittsburgh and the murders in the kosher grocery store in New Jersey, so nearby to us here in Brooklyn. If attacks on one minority are ignored, attacks on others may also be in time. We must remain vigilant on behalf of all minorities to try to keep all of us safe. Third, the Jewish community includes many Asian American Jews. You, if you are Asian American and Jewish, are a minority in a minority. Whether you are an Asian American Jew or a Black, Indigenous, or Latinx Jew. And that means that you have to deal with racism both outside and inside the Jewish community. The rest of us Jews have a lot of work to do to be fully inclusive of all Jews. The murders in Georgia, as they impact Asian Americans, are also impacting Asian American Jews. And so the rest of us need to recognize that that means that there is a direct impact on our community, and we should respond accordingly with support and, again, with vigilance. As for the racism that Asian American Jews, Black Jews, Indigenous Jews, and Latinx Jews encounter in the Jewish community, I know that when a white Jew says to a Jew of color, "Did you convert?" or "How are you Jewish?" or even in the context of religious services or other activities in the synagogue, "Are you Jewish?" Because we might assume that people who come for services are Jewish. I know people don't intend any harm when they ask those kinds of questions. But it is often experienced as a lack of acceptance, even if the person asking the question would say, "But I'm just interested. I'm just curious." And when a white person says to another Jew, "You don't look Jewish," or a white Jew is what I meant, it is frequently experienced as questioning the Jewishness of that person, of saying that there's something wrong about them if they don't look Jewish. Again, even if that's not the intent of the speaker. We may not be able to control the reactions inside our heads. We may not be able to stop ourselves from assessing whether or not someone looks Jewish or wondering about what their Jewish history is. But we can learn not to say it aloud. We can learn not to ask. We can learn to treat anyone who comes to services or other activities as if they are Jewish, regardless of our assumptions, until they tell us otherwise. We can find ways not to say things that lead to fellow Jews feeling less welcome, less like they belong. Our Torah portion this week, Vayikra, is all about sacrifices, animal sacrifices. Many of the sacrifices described are brought for the expiation, the atoning for sins that people have committed without realizing it when they committed the sins. When they do realize it, they bring the sacrifice to atone for the sin. And at the end of our Torah portion, we read that when the sin causes harm to another person, the person must first make amends for the harm to the harmed person and then bring a sacrifice to atone. We often don't intend to cause harm through our behavior, but we have all been taught by society to think about and judge people in certain ways, and deciding who looks Jewish and who doesn't, or what to think about another person based on their race, is very deeply ingrained. Even if we don't intend it, it is still sin. It misses the mark of seeing that every single person is made in the image of God, and every one of us does it. We can't help being products of our society and our world, and sometimes that leaves us with things to atone for. I appreciate that the Torah shares a mechanism for atoning and getting rid of guilt for when we did something thoughtlessly. The sacrificial system isn't talking about exactly what I'm talking about. It's talking about violating mitzvot. But I would say that for us today, it is a violation of our ethical responsibilities when we thoughtlessly assume that someone isn't part of the Jewish community based on what they look like or what their name is. And obviously, this is not the same thing as murdering people, obviously. Nevertheless, we have work to do. We have work to do in the Jewish community. We aren't doing sacrifices anymore, for which I am grateful. But there may be ways for us to atone anyway when we realize we might have something to atone for. I want to take a moment also to say that sacrifice, as it's used in the Torah, doesn't have the same connotation as when we talk about sacrifice today. It's not giving up something that you want for some other good. It's more like giving a gift to someone you love. You find the nicest gift you can afford, and the feeling you have when you give it to your loved one is probably close to the feeling the Israelites had when they made a sacrifice to God. So if we want to atone for, say, something we have said that we regret, something that might have questioned someone else's identity, Perhaps we might choose to give a monetary gift to an organization doing good work in the area of diversity or anti-racism. One example of this might be B'chol Lashon, and a wonderful organization that promotes and celebrates diversity in the Jewish community. May we always strive to be mindful that every person is equal and made in God's image. May we mourn for loss of life and take action to keep our fellow Americans, Jewish or not, safe. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. With humility and graciousness, we stand before you. The days have made us weary and unsure. And although we've made mistakes, the truth is we adore you and ask that you be with us evermore. Shema Koleinu, hear our voices, Adonai Eloheinu, our one and only God. Have compassion on us, your children, and with compassion hear our prayer. And if we've strayed, don't push us away. Help us to return to what is right. We know that it's late, but we're willing to wait for your answer, for your blessing, for your light. Shema Koleinu, hear our voices, Adonai Eloheinu, our one and only God. Have compassion on us, your children, and with compassion hear our prayer. And with compassion hear our prayer.
We continue with the Aleinu. I invite you, if you're able, to rise. Page 586, if you have a prayer book.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latit gedulo le'otzeh bereshit, shehu noteh shamayim ve'yosed aretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mimahol, u'shchinat uzo begofhei meromim, u'Eloheinu אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Let's be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months, or in past years at this time of the year. I have put the yahrzeit list up on the screen. I know that the names are very small, but I can't make it bigger and have it still be possible to see them all. So I apologize for that. So maybe you can't see any of them. But anyway, if you have names of anyone for whom you are saying the mourner's Kaddish this evening, I invite you to put that in the chat, that name or names, and I'll also give you an opportunity at the end to add more names. We remember those who have died in the past year. Ellie Heimlich, Sherry Burns, Terry Singer, Henry Kuhn, Lily Zimmett, Bob Perlman, Ira Berkowitz, Bayumi Mohammed, Amy Zisovic, Mary Holland, Dorothy Webster, Robert Allen Santos Sr., Robert Bonenfant, Barry Strumpf, Judy Epstein, Dorothy Mason, Judy Panzer, Barry Ween, Charlotte Brown, David Schachter, Douglas Maines, Devorah Lewis, Tria Sapir, Jane Evans, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Manny Pastor, Ruth Rubin, Harris Reese, Emerson Berger, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Carolyn McNamara, Marion McGivney, Ronnie Turek, Michaela Schaefer, Helen Zagerman Schwimmer, Ido Sheffy, Elaine Gordet, Dr. Stephen Kamholtz, Carol Gross, Carol Andre, Robert Serpico, Jeanette Riley, Melvin Barish, William Lamp, Ina Sandals, Martin Shankin, Solomon Tettlebaum, Howard Jankelowitz, Sean Singer, Jeff Harris, Sammy Berger, Rabbi Kenneth Roseman, Chaim Braunzweig, Harry Baylor, Benjamin W. Schaefer, Shirley Hyatt Tobias, Myron Klein, Ted Tobias, Rita Belay, Jay Jankelowitz, Sandy Gannon Abel, and David Ribler. Gail Susan Hockhauser, Leatrice Langer, Inga Probetsky, Kevin McCarthy, Park Shing Lam. On our yahrzeit list this week are included Robin Bass's mother, Doris Bass, Roz Baylor's brother-in-law, Abraham Berkowitz, and her brother, Jacques Rosampique, Joyce Kotlowitz's stepfather, Theodore Billert, and her sister, Ilona Campana, Natalie Friedlander's brother-in-law, Lawrence U. Friedlander, Deborah Kosman's husband, William Kosman, Michael Rose's paternal grandfather, Frank Rose, Ruth Levine's aunt, Lee Schwartzman, Esther, Tamara Kerner's relative, Esther Zegaloff, Martin Morowitz's aunt, Shirley Troyer, Judith Weiss's great aunt, Adele Wellman, and Jacqueline Udalowitz's mother, Frances Udell. Did I mention Park Shing Lam? I think I did. Who else has names to add? Emma Rose?
I think Portia Armbruster.
Mona?
Yeah, I think Margaret Deutsch is Lillian Schwartz's mother.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Anybody else have names to add? Okay. We also include all of those many, many people who have died from COVID-19 in our own country and around the world, as well as those who have died from other causes, whether in war or famine or terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on the streets of our cities. If you have a prayer book, the Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. And I invite you, if you're able, to rise and join in or to participate in the Kaddish according to your own custom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mivorach Leolam Ulalmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved wherever they may be. And let us say, amen. Let's be seated.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Before we conclude our service, a few announcements. I think that Eric is not here, so I'll tell you some stuff that's going on. So tomorrow morning at 9:15 is the religious school Passover celebration. At 9:45 is B'Yachad, and at 11 a.m. is Shabbat services. At 2:30, I will be speaking in a panel discussion as part of the United Nations 65th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. The discussion is called Diversity Matters: Women's Impact on and Growth in Diverse Communities. I sent out a flyer yesterday, and the event will stream on YouTube at 2:30 on Saturday, and I put the link also in the links email yesterday. Sunday, March 21st at 11 a.m. is Celebration of an Irish Community. Join the Jewish Cultural Committee as they present a program featuring Rudy Lachs of the Munster Jewish Community. And it's in conjunction with Temple Tiferet Shalom in Massachusetts. And there was also a flyer yesterday to sign up for that. At 3:00 p.m., also on Sunday, is another cook-along, this time a Passover cook-along with Sharon Spellman. She is going to make two of her favorite Passover dishes, chocolate mousse pie and matzah farfel kugel. So you can sign up for that at Beshert Cooking at .eventbrite.com. Tuesday, there's afternoon Torah study with Rabbi Pinsky. Thursday is the third session of We Are What We Remember, the Melton class that I'm teaching together with Rabbi Sam Levine from East Midwood Jewish Center, and Flatbush Jewish Center is also part of the cohort. So this is the second to last class. Rabbi Levine will be teaching. You can still sign up if you want to. You could probably get something out of the last two classes, and the link was in the email yesterday. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to add announcement-wise? No? Nothing announcement-wise? Okay.
Is the Irish meeting this Sunday, Rabbi?
According to the announcements, at 11 a.m.
Thank
And Janice Isa says Happy Persian New Year. Yes, it is. Tomorrow morning is the beginning of Nowruz, which is Persian New Year celebrated by Iranians and Iranian Jews all around the world. Although my Iranian Jew doesn't. He told me he forgot. He's like, I didn't even know it was Nowruz until I told him. So there you have it. Noni, closing song.
Hine Matov. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.